I'm going to talk about asking indirect questions. A question can be asked directly or indirectly. For example, a direct question: where can I find the pickles? To make this an indirect question, I would say, do you happen to know where the pickles are? Many English speakers choose to ask questions indirectly. Here are a few phrases that form indirect questions. Can you tell me, do you have any idea? It is not usually considered rude to ask direct questions, but in some situations, indirect questions are more common. And in other situations, direct questions are more common. If you're asking a question in a situation where questions are anticipated and expected, direct questions are more common. For example, if I'm at the zoo and I ask a zoo employee about the location of a particular animal, this kind of question is expected. So I will ask directly. I'll say, excuse me, where are the monkeys? If you are asking a question out of the blue, which means when it is not expected, indirect questions are more common. For example, if I'm walking down a city sidewalk and I decide to ask someone I don't know, a stranger, for directions, this kind of question is not expected. So I will ask indirectly. I will say, excuse me, I'm wondering if you know how to get to the art museum from here. Sometimes when we are making indirect questions, we end up making statements that are actually questions. So I'm going to talk about these. Some indirect question phrases are not technically questions, but statements. Such as, I'd like to know, or I was wondering if. Someone might say, I'd like to know what time the park closes. This is not technically a question, so it does not end with a question mark, but it is a statement that asks for an answer. So it is a question. Because these kinds of questions are officially statements, the word order does not change as when forming a question. For example, if I have the question, what time does school get out? I can make this into a statement question. I can say, I was wondering what time school gets out. So this is technically a statement, but it's actually asking for information. Same for the next one. This question, where is the elevator? I can make this into a statement question and say, I would like to know where the elevator is. So in this statement, I am asking a question. But because it's a statement, I'm going to use a period. Just a little confusing. So I want to give you a few examples of making indirect questions. And this should help you as you are making indirect questions for the homework assignment. So we have a direct question here. What time does the bus come? So when we're forming a question like this, often we use do or does as a helping verb. And this makes our question. But when we are making an indirect question, we move the do here to the beginning. Do you know what time the bus comes? And notice here at the end, even though this is a question, we use the present tense order of words. So we say we don't do it as if we're forming a question. We do it as if we are making a statement. So do you know what time the bus comes? Another example, a direct question, where is the hospital? An indirect question, can you tell me where the hospital is? Notice with the indirect question, I don't follow the same word order, right? I use a sentence word order instead of a question word order. So the is goes back to the end as in a regular sentence. One more example, a direct question. Is this where I can get a birth certificate? To make that an indirect question, I can say, I was wondering if this is where I can get a birth certificate. So I make the question indirect by adding, there's certain phrases, the ones that we've covered, that we put at the beginning to change a direct question to an indirect question. And these phrases indicate that it's an indirect question. And notice again, the is here is in a different location. So for the direct question, I move the is to indicate a question. But for an indirect question, I put it in a normal place it would be in a statement. So I hope that this helps you as you practice forming indirect questions.